everyone. Welcome to another episode. Today we've got Ayush from the Huddle01 app, and it is actually way more than that. We're going to jump into it. But we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of different things today. Web3 social, what the whole communication layer is being built in a decentralized way, and a whole bunch of different things, including creator economy. We're going to touch on some interesting parts. He's actually an Indian founder. What's going on in that part of the world? Whole bunch of different things. Going to be a lot of fun. Ayush, how are you, man?
Hey, everyone. Thanks, Chris, for having me. I'm great. I'm doing well. Thank you for inviting me to the podcast.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Glad to have you. And so let's jump straight in here. So tell us what Huddle01 is. Some people might have heard about it before. Some people, especially in the Web3 social ecosystem, might have played around with it before. They might have tried. You've got a Web3 Zoom type app that's being built, but it's actually an entire ecosystem that's being built. So let's start with what is Huddle01, and why are you building this?
Yeah, Chris. I think a brief introduction. I'm an engineer who has turned founder. We have been building Huddle01 for the last 3 years now. At Huddle01, what we're building is a proper people-powered communication network. So what I mean was that is that everything audio and video in the world of Web3 could be powered by our infrastructure. We have a three-pronged approach. The first is an app layer, which you correctly mentioned is Web3 Zoom. That means you can do all the things you can do on Zoom, Google Meet, or Microsoft Teams, but way more using Huddle01's dApp. The second is the SDKs. That means anyone can integrate live audio video into their own apps in less than 5 minutes. That means if you want to integrate any kind of audio and video in your gaming, in your metaverse, in any kind of creator-based apps, in any social apps, you can just use Huddle01's iframes and SDKs, and bam, in 5 minutes you're done. Using that, more than 150 apps are built on top of us. And the third is a protocol layer, which is the main game. That means if Ayush, Krish, and let's suppose Shane Mac are doing a call, and if Shane has a great internet connection, he can become a node and he can power the call of all three of us. So essentially, moving away from central servers and giving people back the power. That's why people-powered communication. Why we're building this is pretty simple. There are three major reasons for that. The first is privacy issues. There are a lot of privacy issues in the current realm of how video conferencing is done. That means all of your data is getting stored on the servers, which are not completely encrypted. That means those are completely not content. They're transport encrypted, but not content encrypted. That means your data can still be seen by the servers. The second is performance issues. I'm in India right now. I know what happened during the COVID times. A lot of people who were not able to go to school because of the overall COVID situation. They were not able to learn on Zoom because of the overall issues of performance. That means there's a latency issue, there was lag, there was jittery voice, robotic voices, and whatnot. And the third is the bottom-up economy. That means right now, all the value accrued are either done by Zoom or by all these big brothers of AWS, Bezos, and everyone else. You need to change that, because all the intellectual property which we are doing right now, the conversations, that should be owned by people. And all those communication trails happening should happen via people's own compute and bandwidth devices. And that's why we decided to build Huddle01, which can solve all these three problems of privacy, performance, and a bottom-up economy itself.
Very cool. And then so if somebody wanted to use Huddle01, what is a specific use case? If somebody wanted to build their own video conferencing platform, that's something they would do. They integrate it with different apps. Can you talk about some of the use cases that people are using the SDK for?
Absolutely. So the first thing which we did was that we built the own app. I think that's the best way to start for any kind of infrastructure. On the infrastructure, build your own app, and then you'll start seeing a lot of use cases starting to pop up. So the first use case we are seeing right now is for all these different kind of gamings. They want to, now the gamers need to collaborate with each other. So that means they need an audio to talk to each other, and that's where they use Huddle01 SDK. Second, any kind of creator who wants to live stream basically and do all kind of streaming activities, they plug in our SDKs and then they use it. Third, any kind of creator who wants to have an audio spaces into their own platform, they directly embed that to do these kind of situations. Fourth, are all these productivity kind of toolings. That means somebody who wants to build a telehealth kind of an application. That means doctors trying to collaborate with patients. They need a proper privacy centric device and platform. That's where they use Huddle01. They use our SDKs, which is much more robust, which is much more privacy oriented, and you can do a lot of interesting things on top of it. And a lot of token gated aspects. That means all the creators who have their own tokens or who have their own NFTs or their own lens handle, they can directly use our SDKs. For example, right now, you as well, Chris, you are really, really famous on Lenster and LensTube. Now, anyone who collects or follows you, you can create a specific kind of thing that only people who have followed Chris on Lenster or on LensTube, you can actually create a token gated event directly to do nothing, no code, nothing. You can just do that, and people, only those people can join your calls. So those kind of aspects, were from NFT token gated to productivity to all these collaboration kind of activities, have started to pop up, from gaming to telehealth to education to NFT to creator economy and much more.
Yeah, I think that one of the interesting things that I thought was most interesting is the way that you could use token gating for, whether you're a musician artist, or even if, like, I could see myself doing something if I wanted to do like token gated live streams, is something that I could
Yes.
see done. I think is going to be really interesting. And have you started to see kind of that be one of the primary use cases so far?
Oh, yes, absolutely. In terms of social, we are seeing a lot of these use cases in all these social dApps which are out there. I'll just give you an example. Right now, we have 700 people who have used the Lens, have signed in on Huddle01 app via the Lens ID, and they have done more than 150,000 minutes of meeting on the platform itself. So that's the power in which people are coming using the DIDs and trying to do the calls itself. And then that's trickling down into the Lens developer garden, where all the people who are using Lens, they're starting to see that, hey, I can plug in all these authentication, and they can use a live audio and video to do an asynchronous and a synchronous based communication. That means having a social graph of Lens while doing a communication on audio and video via Huddle01 itself. So that's the kind of usage on socials and creators which are seeing a lot pop up, especially in all these hackathons which we are sponsoring. Recently, we're doing ETH Global Hackafest, and that's where we're seeing that. And our platform level as well, we're seeing a lot of use cases because now our Google Calendar launch is coming up. So there's also a test beta launch. People are trying it out. So you can just now, just how you're scheduling a meeting on calendar, you can just directly go there, add on your Google. You can see Google Meet and Huddle01 as well there, and then you just click there, and bam, you're done. You can start your meeting as fast as possible.
So anyone that's using Google Calendar that wants to make a meeting, instead of using like Google Meet or Zoom or something, they could use Huddle01. Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah. So that solves a lot of things because now it's very easy to use Huddle01 as a platform. Why? Because now you just have, when you're setting up a calendar, you just stream the drop down. You see Google Meet, and you also see Huddle01. The only thing is that you can need to go into your workplace and download it. But it's one click, and after that, you can just completely use them. That's how you get network effects on the platform level, and that's how you move towards the infrastructure layer, and try to basically and try developers to build these interesting kind of things as well.
And then how does Huddle01 kind of fit in the puzzle? There's a big like Web3 decentralized social communication layer, whatever you want to call it, with
Mhm.
kind of paint a picture. We've got Lens, we've got XMTP, we've got LivePeer, we've got IPFS, we've got Filecoin, kind of all these different projects that are in a similar kind of space. How does Huddle01 differ, or even use them symbiotically?
Yeah, I think the latter part is exactly it. So we work together symbiotically as well in a lot of cases. That means Lens is a proper social graph. That means now you can do all the things, like you can follow, you can do everything which you couldn't do possibly. Couldn't even fathom with the current social graphs which are out there in the Web2 world. Second is something like, and in an audio and video, that means what we are doing right now. There are three layers. The first is what we are doing, real time communication using audio and video. Second is live streaming, and third is what we call as your recording. Now, audio video completely, that means the layer of audio and video completely is powered by Huddle01. Anyone who wants to message, that's powered by XMTP, and anyone who wants to basically record, that's powered by Filecoin and IPFS, and anyone who wants to do live streaming, then they can use LivePeer. So there are these kind of layers where real-time audio video, Huddle01, live streaming, LivePeer, recording, IPFS and Filecoin, and messaging is what Lens, XMTP, and one as a social graph bundled together is what Lens. I think that's how I structure this whole nut as. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get an infographic or something made on that.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then so, you've kind of hinted and mentioned there's some more Lens integrations coming, some new apps that Huddle01 is building internally and helping, kind of partner and build externally. What's going on in that world?
Yeah, so two major things. I think first I already mentioned was Google Calendar. That's one of the biggest things which are coming up because for any kind of apps on any of the ecosystem in Web3 world, consumer apps in general, what they require is network effects. And it's hardest to build. I can contest that it's easier to build an infrastructure, but very, very hard to get network effects on the consumer layer platforms because whatever you say, the Web2 platforms have hooked you based on the UI and UX which is out there. And that's why we put a very methodical approach of 3 years on basically building a dApp as well, which looks cooler than Google Meet, and you can do a lot of interesting things. But how do you get network effects? And that's where you can use this Google Calendar plugin, and bam, you're done. It's very easy now. You don't have to just download the app or do something. It's just that it's just out there on your calendar. That's first. The second biggest thing in the realm of Huddle01 internally product announcement is audio spaces. Audio spaces is one of the features which we have been seeing used a lot. We have been seeing that on Twitter. We have been seeing that on various other places from Clubhouse, and also with now Naval's Air Chat. People are doing that a lot. Now, that's where Huddle01 comes in. We have an audio spaces which is coming out in next couple of days, where it's scalable to more than 10,000 people. It's more scalable than any of the Web2 platforms also out there. We've been building that for a lot of time now. And you can also do things, very interesting things. That means you can use your token gated identities to come into your proper audio spaces. You can use your NFT as your avatar there. You can, over time, you can also stream. That means if Chris is doing, for example, an audio spaces, over time people can also tip you there, real time tipping on that. That's not possible via any of the Web2 platforms. So these new rails and new primitives are leading to very emergent kind of things which is not possible via any of the Web2 platforms that are out there. Yeah. So these two major things.
I can't wait for the live streaming. It's one of the things I think in the Web3 social world and the Lens world, and even on Farcaster, and you mentioned Naval's new app coming out. It's like we've been missing live streaming for so long, where it feels like we're almost finally there.
Yes, yes. So real time, I think the real time streaming is something where we are also chatting with Superfluid. We essentially had a very, very good, so we have not done hackathon together, but there was someone who was building on Superfluid. They had a wave pool recently. Someone was using both real time streaming of Huddle01 and real time streaming of Superfluid and real time communication of Huddle01. And they built a proper app where you can do proper real time streaming of money to creators and to educators. It was an education-based startup, and they can use audio video for Huddle01. That means for any kind of teacher to get payment now, it's very easy, and any educator can get payment just by Superfluid, and while they're doing like a proper live course itself. So imagine the kind of cases which could be built using this kind of new primitives out there. And audio space on top of it is a new icing on the cake, where you can also do a tipping in audio spaces as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and for anyone who's listening and doesn't know, Superfluid is a way to basically, the way that you think about streaming is it's constantly coming in a stream, right? That's why they call it fluid. But they want to do the same thing for payments. Instead of paying $10 a month, you might pay 30 cents a day, and you can break that down into day, hour, minute, second, or whatever. Superfluid, it basically creates a stream.
Yes.
It's an interesting concept. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to play out, as far as adoption, network effects, but it's a really cool concept. When I dug into that project, I thought that was interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, so, with the live streaming coming out, have you been talking to other apps, particularly in the Lens ecosystem that might be interested in adopting something like that from, maybe from Orb or Favor or some of the other apps and Butterfly and Lentil that are building on top of Lens? Is that something that they're interested in integrating?
Yeah, so for audio space, I think, Chris, that's what audio space is being used by a lot of these very interesting power apps which are there on Lens. So you will see that announcement very soon. A lot of people from the names you mentioned have already integrated audio spaces. It's just not live yet, but they will be live soon, and it looks fantastic. I tried it out yesterday. We just tested it out in one of these apps. I cannot disclose which app it was, but the ones you mentioned, it was of one of them, and it's brilliant because it completely, they just use our SDKs and they implemented our audio spaces SDK. That's what it is. That means now you can just log in via Lens, and bam, you're done. All of us came via Lens profile, and we were able to do audio spaces. We were able to properly talk in a manner. It was latency free, and we had very good fun. Yeah. So
That's
see
gonna
that.
be cool. You can't tell us which one? Are you sure?
So yeah, I think it starts with so yeah, I
Okay.
cannot just
I see.
yeah.
Heard it here first. Heard it here. That's cool. Yeah, I think those use cases are interesting, particularly, and one of the first use cases that come to mind is obviously kind of creator economy stuff, and we should dig into that more in a second. But I also think, governance for a lot of these projects is interesting. Shane Mack said something on our podcast interview that he's like, we have billions and billions of dollars locked in smart contracts in different wallets, and we can't send a message to the person on the other side, which is asinine if you really think about it. So, what kind of use cases, maybe let's talk more about kind of creator economy that you think will kind of unlock for some of those, and then maybe, more DeFi or, NFT related, whether it's governance or even just like, if an NFT project wants to have a token gated chat, I think that could be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why we are also collaborating with XMTP as well. We actually did a event together in Bangalore. That means where we were just chatting about that. How I was talking to Prashant, who leads growth at XMTP, on how again this thing that you cannot chat with people and you have billions of dollars logged into it. I think same thing is that if I want to dial you from my MetaMask to your MetaMask, I cannot do that. I cannot dial Chris.eth from Ayush.eth, which you can do right now. You can just call wallet to wallet call directly itself, no login, no authentication required. I just have that and that layer. So I think that's something which is possible now, which is not possible earlier. Apart from that, now all of these NFTs which we have right now, and also saw, Chris, that you also have those collectible of your own NFTs of the people who can collect it. It looks really good. So you can now essentially make sure that people who collect your NFTs, only those people can come on your call once. So you can do a proper token gated call as a creator. That means only those people who have been your avid fans, they can enter the calls and they get that exclusive access kind of things. Think about something like VFriends. So in VFriends, if you have these, you can actually do a call with Gary V only if you own VFriends. And then you can go on the calls and Gary gives you that exclusive drops kind of thing. So now what is happening is that VFriends is gaining value. It's accruing social value because of the gated content which is out there, which is possible in one click. And as we know, as humans, we have evolved because we communicated and then we collaborated, and that's how we innovated. So I think if we have to move into this world with new identity coming with, that Shane also mentions a lot about, if new identity is coming up, communication will have to follow, and new identity has come up really well. Lens has been adopted. Dot lens is everywhere. I mean, to make sure that I can call via dot lens from you to me. I think that's kind of use cases which have started to pop up a lot now, where people can call in a more pseudonymous fashion, more free fashion, while there's no servers in between.
Yeah, that's interesting. And are there any use cases that you can think of that we haven't really talked on yet that you think that, with a couple more tech improvements we can get there, or, like any big picture things that people aren't, really talking about yet that you think they should be?
Yeah, absolutely. So today, right now, I think we are talking right now, and the announcement of the mixed reality headset of Apple is actually happening right at this moment. Now that's a great thing. Now it's a proper. That means now you'll see metaverse completely popping out of picture. That means again metaverse will completely go into that spin. But there's a reason why we are still doing this call on the 2D screen. Uh, we have so much evolved as in technology. Why are we still communicating in a 2D screen, and why are we not still able to do the things which Iron Man used to do, that in terms of communicating, that means looks more immersive in nature? The problem happens on the infrastructure layer. The infrastructure is not ready enough. I'll give you an example. Right now, you are in US. I'm in India. We are using StreamYard. All the calls are routed from India to a server in US and then comes back to me. That means right now it travels by the speed of light by all the distance and comes back. And the more distance it travels, the more there is heat loss, the more there is latency, jitter, buffer, and that's why the communication of the app. It's not the problem of app. The problem is on the infrastructure level, and that's what you need to solve. What we have proposed a very simple solution where Chris and Ayush are in different parts of the world. There are two nodes running. One, which is collaborating with Ayush, which is running the node of Ayush, and one, which is of Chris, and then they're talking to each other. What that solves is there's no latency now. Now, what will that solve is that all these VR based devices which we talk about, we will be able to communicate with each other immersively while using this VR devices. So over time, you'll see a lot of XR, VR, mixed reality, and VR kind of use cases happening a lot via the infrastructure of Huddle01, because it will be much more latency free and you will have much more immersive kind of games. We play a lot of MMORPG games as well, multiplayer games. Now, all these games require a lot of performance, and that performance issues are a lot there. And that's why we still are doing that in not a very immersive fashion. So over time, you'll see the kind of immersive explosion of consumer apps on the infrastructure of Huddle01, which we cannot even fathom right now. But that will improve our communication, collaboration, and in turn, both entertainment as well as innovation in general. So I think that's the kind of use case which we haven't talked about. That's in future. That is more on these VR-based devices of Oculus Quest 2, Apple devices, and all these other devices out there. So our edge infrastructure will solve that kind of things way better than the centralized infrastructure out there.
Gotcha. So you're bullish metaverse.
Yeah, I'm bullish on immersive communication. I'm bullish that that the way we are doing chat right now, this will not be immersive enough. And we have remote has actually solved things that we can do things remotely. I'm a fan of working from office, but I'm also a fan of the things which you can do at a global level while collaborating with each other. And COVID has actually accelerated that. But what I'm really sad about is that we are still doing calls in a 2D screen environment. That means I'm still going on a call which has two rectangular screens. Like it should be changed, and that's what you need a better infrastructure for, and that's what we are providing. And for providing that, we're also giving, so over time it will happen is that you'll get incentives for running these nodes of Huddle01. That means the more you give your bandwidth and compute, the more you'll be able to earn by the Huddle01's incentive systems. So we'll have our own tokens into picture which will solve this thing.
Gotcha. So did Apple just announce the headset? I know there are a million rumors. I wasn't sure what time
Yeah,
the
I don't know that they announced it, but there was rumors, but it's happening right now when we are chatting. So I think that they would have announced. There's something chat going on in my Slack channel, but yeah, let's see what did they announce. Yeah, they haven't announced yet, I think,
Okay. Yeah,
but
I'm
they will be.
hoping. I'm hoping for it. It sounds pretty cool. Everyone's hyping it up on on social media.
Yeah, now just imagine that you and I both are wearing those glasses, and then you actually feel like we are chatting with each other in a very immersive fashion. Think about things which you can actually feel like that we are actually IRL itself. Yeah.
And so let's speculate a little bit, if you don't mind. Assuming Apple releases, kind of the AR VR headset, I have only one friend that I've ever met, and they use the Oculus Quest for
Yes.
actual virtual meetings at their job. Like they'll do virtual meetings. Do you know anyone that's actually using that, or are you using it?
No, so the reason I have Oculus Quest as well. The reason why I'm not using it because the infrastructure is not ready. I cannot do a video conferencing. I can play single player game. That means I can play Beat Saber really well. That's one of the good games on Oculus Quest 2. But I cannot talk to you. I cannot do a video call with you, which is immersive in nature, and that needs to, and that's not because of Oculus, that's because of infrastructure. The infrastructure which is out there under which Oculus runs is a centralized infrastructure, and that's because there are servers only in particular places in the world, and all the data goes there and then comes back to you. That means privacy as well as performance goes to a toss, and that's where you need a decentralized network. That means now you can run these things from your own place itself, and that's how you can become immersive. So what you'll see is that with over time, the infrastructure becoming much more ready, people will start adopting these Oculus Quest glasses more, because now they can not just play single player games or just individually, they can actually collaborate with multiple places, multiple people in that format itself. Yeah.
Gotcha. And that's kind of a good segue with, we've heard about a lot of, Nvidia stock went to the moon last week, and a lot of AI, a lot of VC money's flowing into AI. Congratulations, you guys just raised around. Talk about that, and
Thank you.
then talk about kind of how the VC, crypto market fundraising environment is right now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chris, for that. I think we actually fundraised. It's been around 3 months. We raised back in March. That's when we announced it. Our round was led by HiveMind. They are one of the biggest investors in the space. They are a $2 billion fund. They have invested in Helium, LifePeer, and all these other players. They understand the market of real-time communication, telecommunication network really well. And the round was also participated by a lot of very interesting angels, from Balaji to Stani to Dan Romero from Farcaster, Stani from Lens, and we saw and yeah, we raised around $2.8 million in this round. So that was a seed round, and then we had raised $1.7 million before. So taking a total raise to 4.5. We haven't launched tokens yet. It was a proper round of equity, but yes, we have incentives aligned into future in terms of how we will create a network. So yes, token is always in play in that regards. So yeah, I think it took us time, to be very honest. It took us time to completely raise. The market has become slower after all the implosions which happened with FTX and with Celsius and Voyager and all these things blowing up. But I think good projects are still raising. Good projects have been able to raise. It's just that the diligence have become much more stronger. The valuations have gone down a bit, maybe, but the good VCs, their theses are intact as usual. So if you have a clarity to the T on what you're trying to do, I think you will still be able to raise. It's just that the cycles have become longer in terms of the race. But yeah, I think good investors are still deploying capital. And if you know what you're doing, if you know that you have a decently attack vector in terms of it, it's just that you won't be able to raise with the pitch deck now. You need to have some kind of MVP as a product. You need to have some kind of traction and some kind of go-to-market motions. I've recently been reading a lot of blogs from investors. Go to market has become a very key item to it. That means, do you know how will you market this product? Will it only serve to a native Web3 audience, or will it also attack the Web2, come after the Web2 market as well? And that's where I think a lot of focus is going on, even in terms of, as you talked about, NVIDIA and AI and all those things. So I've been seeing a very, very good thesis from a lot of good people. I think Kyle Samani wrote from Multicoin, Coin Fund. I think Austin Brack also wrote very interesting things that there's an intersection of AI with crypto. It's very interesting thing where there are all these LLMs which are called large language models. They require these servers to run. So for ChatGPT, they're paying millions and millions of dollars a month just to run ChatGPT. So it's actually very expensive to run any kind of large language model, and that I think that's where the crypto comes into picture. That means if you have any kind of deep in which you call decentralized physical infrastructure. I think Messari wrote very interesting blog about it as well. That means any of the things where you can actually use your own laptop as a kind of server, you can reduce the costings for running these AI based LLM models. And I think that's where I think there are various interesting things from Akash network, from render tokens to LifePeer, who are doing some interesting, who can do some interesting works here. Akash is already doing that. That means it's very easy to run a large language model, train that onto Akash network. It's also cheaper. So I think that's very interesting thing. So I think there's a very good culmination happening in those two regards in terms of things. Over time, over using Huddle01 nodes as well, you will be able to run these things, because we are also doing that compute and bandwidth kind of collaboration. That means any kind of model runnings, it won't happen on centralized servers. That means its costing will decrease. Think about it like Airbnb. If we are just trying to create every physical infrastructure which are out there, which are trying to decentralize it. We are trying to make an Airbnb of the internet infrastructure. That means you can open and a laptop and bam, you're done, rather than using a central server which is in North Virginia and there are thousands of server farms out there. So it becomes way more cheaper. And since there's a lot of supply of computers out there, the demand is there, so the cost goes down. So I think that's how the costing will become cheaper if you use crypto based networks rather than using a centralized server. And that's the kind of thesis on which a lot of things of AI to become cheaper, they will require crypto. I think that's what a lot of smart VCs are talking about. Now, a lot of smart entrepreneurs are talking about that. Hey, if you want to run an AI model, run it on a crypto network, because that's what is cheaper.
So the thesis is because it's decentralized and anyone can participate, that the cost actually goes down.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And talk a little bit more with somebody who's focused in the video world, with all the AI models coming out and deep fakes and all the things like that. How do you see that participating in a world with crypto?
Yeah, I think that's where we are actually seeing that we've been seeing that a lot of in terms of pseudonymity as well. So, for example, Balaji is one of our major investors. Balaji invested in Huddle01 because of one of the theses was that pseudonymity. That means in Huddle01, over time, you'll be able to you can actually just log in via your MetaMask and bam, you're done, you enter. I don't need to know your location, your IP, your email address, and whatnot. And then you can also just switch off your video, but you can also use a VR based filter, a AR based filter actually, to do the calls, which becomes much more collaborative in nature itself. So I think we are seeing that kind of thing there. But if you are able to uh, just map an identity with a deep fake, I think that's how you solve the problems of these content, like regulation of content, and making sure that the content is still, it's not completely, I'll say, uh, harmful in nature. So I think the way to control that is to have an identity system, and that's where all these identities of lens and all these DIDs out there also solves that in a methodical fashion. I think there will be an intersection where all these, even if you're having a deep fakes, you can actually cross match that with having that, is it linked to a DID itself, and that's where you can actually see that, okay, this is a genuine content and this is not a genuine content. So you can see that by just having a better authentication system while also having a freedom of speech.
Very cool. Very cool. And then what other areas are, whether they're crypto or non-crypto related, that you're interested in?
Yeah, I think in terms of crypto related, we touched on this topic as well, Chris. But I think something very interesting is happening uh, in the domain of AI and crypto intersection, which we talked about. I think that's something which is very very interesting. Second thing which is happening is on the layer of this decentralized science movement. I really like that. That means now all these academicians and researchers are coming together while construction of a proper DAO. That means they can collaborate together and can have a very good conversation on, and that accelerates the research, that accelerates the building of new kind of things in terms of any kind of new deployment of medicines. I think that's very interesting, which is happening out there. And then I think I'm really interested in general about communication, and that's where I'm really excited about what we are doing, what Life Peer is doing. I'm really interested in telecommunication as well. That means Helium. I'm really excited on what Helium is trying to do in 5G world. And since Helium and Huddle are doing the same thing, but just the different, they're doing in telecommunication, we are doing in real time communication. So very excited on how they are moving. They've been building for the last 10 years. So massive respect to them. I'm also interested in kind of seeing that browser kind of movements happening. There is Brave, which is out there for a long time now, but there are more of these browsers coming up now. They're PowerDAO. There are a couple of more I'm talking to, Vera and others who are basically building a browser based advertising model, which is not based on like attention, like not been tracking, but actually based on properly incentive based mechanism. That means bottom up. So I think all these crypto based business models are trying to come up in all the industries, from real time communication with Huddle01, messaging with XMTP, and with all these advertising with Brave and with Vera and PowerDown, all the others. So these are the spectrums of places I'm interested in. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting how global the whole network is, right? If the network is decentralized, with you being in India, to talk, I was a little interested in, how is the crypto scene in India? I've heard the government is not too friendly, which is not uncommon in today's government world. But how is the scene there?
Yeah, I think in terms of the overall regulations, it has obviously tightened a lot. It has tightened for a variety of reasons. I think one of the reasons for that tightening was also because a lot of people lost money during the times, and that's why a lot of exchanges started to face some kind of regulations. And but exchanges have been properly, I'll say, complying with all the regulations now. All the exchanges which are out there in India. I recently was also participating in, actually went to a lot of policy making discussions with Indian governments. I was in one of the discussions there. The great thing is that they understand the technology very very well. They understand what's doing. The only thing which they are concerned about is what I understood was how do you protect the retailers from the massive downside which is coming in. I think that's where the discussions needs to take place, and that's where the forums have been created. There's a board of blockchain council board in which a lot of the very very emerging Indian startups are there. We talk to it. There's Polygon. There are a lot of others who basically try to have a dialogue with government, tell them about that what kind of things are getting powered by Polygon, getting powered by Indian based by economy, Huddle01, and all the other networks out there. And that's how they're able to basically understand and fathom that, hey, this is a technology where Indians have been building so fast, the Indian based founders, that if we are able to adopt that first, we will be able to capitalize on this wave of Web3 which is going on. But in terms of the builders, the energy is insane. I'm right now in Delhi, and Delhi and Bangalore. These are the two places where, but all the places of India, but in these two places, you'll see a mecca of events happening all across. Even in this beer market, you'll see events happening every 7 days, and that too, a lot of people flock there. They discuss, they brainstorm, and even in terms of hackathons, which you see of even Ethereum or Solana or even Lens doing any kind of things, you'll see a majority of Indian founders are building this. I think even LensTube or Lenster, they were also built by Indian founders as well. So I think very interesting things are happening. And as if regulation becomes really good, I think we are at a cusp of actually innovation in terms of the technology.
Yeah, there are a lot of really good Indian founders out there. It's cool to see.
Yeah.
And then as far as like average people, do they care about crypto? Do they own crypto? How are the on off ramps? Are people talking about it? Are people speculating? Are they buying JPEGs, NFTs? How's
Mm.
the sentiment?
Yeah, I
outside,
think
outside the hardcore builders, like the more general public sentiment.
yeah, I think one good thing is that Bitcoin has actually, because of a lot of influencers in India in general, which have done good job as well, people understands the fundamentals of it. I think one of the person who comes to my mind is Kashif. He's a very famous Indian influencer as well, who talks about the fundamentals of it. So people understand what Bitcoin is, and people want to like hold this kind of thing because they believe that it's a hedge against inflation. And they also understand that okay, there's 21 million Bitcoin out there. And the good thing in India is that that in India, cricket is sentiment, is an emotion. Like I know that I was seeing you today. You're a big hockey fan as well. In India, cricket is a proper. It's like a religion, it's a sport. So in that during that time, there were a lot of these advertisements which actually promoted that the use cases of cryptocurrency. So that's how people understood. Okay, there's a new kind of asset class which is comparatively higher risk as compared to stock markets. But okay, these are things which are happening here. So in terms of it, there are a lot of people who know about cryptocurrency in India. A lot of people have invested in it. It's just in this market, I'll say the volume has slowed down. But in terms of people knowing about it, I think in tier one, tier two cities, I think majority of people know what Bitcoin is, and in general, and also now slowly and steadily Ethereum and all the other major alts which are out there.
Gotcha. And did you have a bunch of friends that kind of got early in the gaming? I had a feeling like in India and other parts of the world in that region, they kind of got in on the Web3 gaming early, like Axie and stuff like that.
Oh yes, in Axie, a lot of people got in early. So I think that's also a fundamental, very interesting thing. So people who actually were gamers in general, India has a lot of gamers. They play a lot of games. There's a lot of live streaming happening. They live stream on Twitch, onto YouTube. So they are the ones who any gamers. If you see any kind of new technology, any kind of new, be it an infrastructure, a node like Huddle01, the ones who run the nodes first are always gamers because they are the ones who are the most curious people, because they're like, hey, let me just tinker with these things, let me just play with these things. They might not completely run it all over, but I think that's what we saw in Axie as well. They played Axie a lot. They played a lot of the other DeFi kingdom kind of games as well a lot. So I see a lot of that adoption happening in India, also live streaming happening that in India. That has slowed down over time because there is I think a downfall in the market of Web3 gaming. But I think I've heard a lot of gaming studios are building some fantastic games out there. People coming in from Activision and EA and all these other places into the Web3 realm, and the games have better storyline, way better graphics, way better sounds. I'm very interested in what kind of, and way better incentive models. The tokenomics has also become better. So I'm very interested in like next 2-3 years on how gaming will develop as, and how India plays a role in terms of the daily active users and the economy which gets promoted by gaming. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I noticed as well too, and I can't remember what the concept is, but it's basically the wealthier countries didn't think like some of the things with the smaller tokenomics were worth their time, but it actually wound up being there's a concept for it. I can't remember.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I know what you're talking about. I think there's one game. It's in 1997. I forgot the name of the game. That game became bigger than the economy of Japan or something. All right. Yeah. That was insane. Like that shows the power of crypto nations, and that's what brings me to the reminder of the book which Balaji has, which talks about the overall nation states and in general about crypto based nations. I forgot the name of the book, but yeah, I think that's how like the crypto nations are becoming so powerful in general. And become yeah.
yeah, super cool. Well, cool. Are there any topics that you think we should jump into that you can think of?
I think we covered a lot of things. I think you also had a lot of interesting questions in general. I think I'll also announce that maybe because I gave that hint, but I think it's Butterfly. Butterfly are the ones who are basically testing out our audio spaces. It's beautiful.
All right.
But this is the first time I'm doing like I came to the podcast like hey, let me just tell it. Maybe my comms team will say that hey, that was not the plan. But okay, I think it's Butterfly. They are doing some fantastic work there. They are actually implemented it. It looks brilliant. You'll see proper announcement coming soon. But yeah, I think these are the three major things: the GCal announcement, the audio spaces, and also the Lens community is adopting to these audio spaces as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really interesting. That'll be a pretty good catalyst. I think I've talked to a lot of creators, and even me personally, just having an ability to live stream, you can't right now. So
Yeah.
that's going to be cool. I'm excited, and shout out to Butterfly and Mo, and the big fan of Butterfly. So That's great to
Yeah,
hear.
yeah, yeah. That I think that's about it. But thanks a lot, Chris. I think this has been awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
This is great. Thank you so much for having me here. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for joining. So, a couple things that are coming up for you guys. We've got the Google Calendar update, where you can integrate with Huddle01 in your Google Calendar, and then live audio coming, and then surprise with Butterfly. So keep an eye out for those, and then remind people where they can learn more about Huddle01 and connect with you.
Absolutely. So I think you can connect with me directly on Twitter. I'm active as Ayush Ranjan at the rate Ranjan3118. That means my last name and 3118. We're really active on Twitter. That's the major place. It's Huddle01.com. That's the Twitter handle. And yeah, audio spaces is the major feature which is coming out live. That's exactly like Twitter Spaces. That means anything you can do on Twitter Space, you can do on audio spaces of Huddle01 using the Web3 primitives itself, and that will solve for a lot of these emerging like immersive conversations which we want to do, even in terms while switching off our video. So yeah, I think that's about it. And then Discord is our place where if you have as a developer any questions in terms of integrating any kind of SDKs into your own apps, be it in live audio, be it live video, be it any kind of streaming, ping us there. We are 24/7 active there. We are all across the world. Our teams are in India. Our team is in Hong Kong. We're in Singapore, US, Germany, and even in other aspects of the world. So ping us, and we'll be replying there as well.
Cool. And then you've got a bunch of hackathons and grants as well too. So if somebody wants to build something,
Yeah,
keep an eye for that.
absolutely. Yeah, so any kind of grants, any kind of hackathons. So we actually also promote a lot of hackathons. Right now, we are sponsoring ETH Global Hackafest. That's where people are building. We have a proper $10,000 prize money there. That means you can build any kind of live audio video apps, be it productivity apps, be it any kind of collaboration apps, be it any kind of creator economy apps, social apps. Use us, build on top of us. You'll see a lot of use cases which has already been built using Lens, using Farcaster, using CyberConnect, using LifePeer, using Superfluid. So we work together with XMTP as well. We work together and people are building very, very beautiful things. So we're interested, build. And yeah, you'll see us in terms of helping us here in terms of grants and even with fundraise as well. Yeah.
Cool. Ayush, thank you. This was a pleasure for everyone that tuned in and caught us on the video. Awesome. Thanks for joining us. Until next time,
Thank
we'll
you.
see you.
See you. Bye.